Welcome back to the show. Well, tensions over the war in Gaza have continued to flare at American universities following efforts to clamp down on many campuses this week. Dozens of new arrests were made in New York and punches were thrown between pro-Palestinian demonstrators in a counter-protest at the University of Chicago. Schools elsewhere were warily trying to turn their focus towards graduations, including some this weekend on campuses such as Northeastern and Ohio State, where demonstrations have led to arrests. Still, the wave of student activism continues to spread, including to universities outside of the United States. And joining me now to discuss all of this is the spokeswoman for Republicans Overseas UK, Sarah Elliott. Sarah, lovely to see you again.
Hi.
And this has become a real issue. I was in America in March, and in Columbia University it was kicking off around then. I mean, why has this continued to grow across the United States?
Well, for many reasons, but originally they want their universities to divest investments from Israel or any Israel-related entities. But they're not just students who are protesting. It is organized by outside groups. It should be noted that at Columbia, when there were over 234 arrests, 132 of them were not even affiliated with the university.
Oh, interesting.
And you've also noticed a lot of their tents look alike amongst all the different university campuses. Third-party groups like Black Lives Matter, labor movements have all influenced these groups on how to do it. They've been actually planning this for a lot longer than the recent conflict in Israel. And they're not just limiting this to Israel and Gaza. They want to actually dismantle these institutions because they believe they are a violent form of colonial legacy. So it's a form of colonialism. But of course, there's been a backlash to this. We've actually seen the rise of students, saving the American flag from touching the ground, chants of USA and the national anthem being sung at the protesters. And we've also seen law enforcement having to step in. Even Democrat Mayor Eric Adams said this is unacceptable and stepped in. So President Joe Biden has given remarks on it, but he hasn't really signaled out that this is a very anti-Semitic movement. He's trying to play both sides.
And of course, the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, is connected with Columbia University, and she has taken a lot of abuse in relation to her stance on what's going on in the Middle East as well. But how have universities handled the protests? Have they been trying to talk to the students, or are they actually saying, look, this is unacceptable and you'll be suspended if you continue with this?
Well, it's been a mixed bag.
Mixed bag.
So Columbia University negotiated, and the president came out with a video yesterday saying we see the reasoning on both sides, but then and then you see the University of Florida where they're like, absolutely no tolerance, this is breaking the law, you are suspended, Now, Columbia did suspend some, but then we have like Northwestern University who are giving scholarship now to Palestinian students every year and faculty as a peace agreement with these protesters.
And I noticed somewhere as well that some of the students were trying to link this back to the protests over the Vietnam War to try and justify what they were doing. I mean, how do you feel about that?
They're completely unrelated. And this is a nation-state, Israel, trying to defend its survival in the Middle East, and it has nothing to do with, fighting communism or sending American troops there. This is fighting terrorism.
And of course, the universities are moving into that period, like all universities, where they're looking at graduations, commencements, I think they're called in the US. So is this going to have an impact? It's already started to have an impact, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the protests in the middle of the commencement. I mean, it's shocking. Harvard University actually had as their commencement speaker this year, even after Claudine Gay, the president, had to step down, who has equated Israel with Hitler.
My goodness.
So I don't know if lessons are being learned here, but I know that many alumni associations are retracting their donations. They're not going to no longer give. There are going to be conditions put on these universities, and you may see some of them really be strapped for cash after this.
And the chilling effect, of course, that it has on Jewish students that are there as well.
Yes,
I mean,
Jewish students. And think of, if you've been working there, going to school, this is your senior year, and you can't have a proper graduation ceremony, you can't even go to class, everything is online. But yeah, the Jewish students feel completely unsafe. Their rabbis are telling them not to show up. I mean, Columbia University even retracted an entrance card for a Jewish professor.
I saw that, yes.
So he couldn't even enter the premises.
Yeah, and yet a Muslim professor, as I understand, who had been barred, was allowed to come back into the college again, and he was able to do so.
And many of those faculty are protesting as well.
Yeah, so the safe space for those Jewish students, it really is dreadful, Sarah, and I'm sure we'll unfortunately see a lot more of it. But thank you so much for coming in to discuss it today.
Yeah.
Thanks to Sarah Elliott. And still